IT.
Everything's live.
We all live and we on air?
Live, locally breaking.
All right.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 5:01, and before we get started, let's go ahead and Mr. Leo, if you would mind, lead us in a prayer.
Dear Father, as we come together as a group, we ask you to guide us and help us and lead us in the right direction, and may we have a successful meeting and carry out our duties. It's I ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. All right, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, so let's go ahead and do a roll call. So we got Mr. Ricks.
Here.
Mr. Casnay.
Here.
Mr. Baptiste. Here. Danny Hall. We also have with us at the table Mr. Adam Jacks, and he, I was talking about him in just a bit, but he is soon to be nominated by the parish council for a position, the open position on the board. I'd also like to recognize the staff. We got Mr. Geisler, Chief Geisler, Chief May, Mr. Risa, and we also have some members of the fire department, people from the public with us tonight, and folks in the audience. So first up on the agenda is going to be the approval of the minutes, and so we'll need a motion.
I make motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, do we have a second? Do we have any discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion on the minutes last month? Okay, so I hear none. Anything from the audience? No? All right, so let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes of February 12th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries. So the minutes have been approved. Chief, do we have any employee recognition tonight?
We do. Real quick, we had 3 confirmations that are coming up on March 26th. Matt Wade, Mason Chasson, and Dalton Sanchez will be confirmed. We do have badges on order, so we'll do their formal badging and pinning hopefully at the next meeting.
Okay.
We also have Mark May, who's been on me the last couple months because he's gotten his 15 years in January, but we never gave him a formal recognition or certificate. I gave you your pin, correct? You lie. He does have his pin somewhere for his 15 years recognition, but we did want to recognize Mark and give him his pretty little certificate that's on both the chair and I. Oh yeah, so we're going to go ahead and take a nice little picture, and congratulations to Mark on 15 wonderful years. Hopefully we get 15 more.
You try. Yeah, it's official.
Congrats. And that is my employee recognition for tonight.
Okay. And so that brings us into the chief report.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, treasurer's report.
And Mr. Chairman, if you'll permit, if you'll turn about the center of your packet, you'll see the receipts and disbursement report. Please turn to page 1. Looks like this. So it's about halfway down your packet. We are through February, which is 2 months of the year, which is 16.7% of the year. Please note that you never have any budget that goes exactly by month to month when because you have front end loaded, like your bond payment, and you have some back end loaded. A couple of highlights I think are critical to point out. If you look on page 1, lines 3 and 4, which is your ad valorem tax, you've already collected $2.8 million of ad valorem, which is much further than we anticipated based on everything that was going on with the assessor's office. Specifically, if you look at line item 4, it says ad valorem prior year. That is early collections of the 24 levy that are intended for 25 operations. So all that 141,000 and 2.66 million are actually all intended for 25 operations. So you can see that we're well ahead in collections of where we originally estimated based on the revised grand recap we received from the assessor.
Does this include that 50,000 that we just got?
No,
No,
That does not include that.
right. And your holdback's probably going to be in the 75,000 plus range.
Okay.
So you should be north of $3 million or close to $3 million when you're setting
And then
it
the
up.
holdback comes in the third quarter,
Actually December.
December.
Correct. Yeah. And you'll probably have another early collection again with the 25 levy, just because of, if they go to the mortgage houses like a Quicken Loans or something like that, they pay those early versus holding the money. If you turn to page 2, line 52, total payroll. This is the largest number in your budget and equates for about 70% of your total budget. That number is at 18.72%. We're only 2% high, which is not any alarm. But again, you had Snowmageddon, you had Mardi Gras, you had some additional deployments for training. So this number is really not any of concern. We're only 2% above, but we've had events that were somewhat unexpected. If you turn to page 3, and I'm just hitting the highlights, but I'll address any question you have. Line 86, bond expenditures. This is payment 4 out of 5. We have to pay the bond principal early, so this is the principal. So you can say it's a big line item. We're at 102,000 paid out of 105, but this is required by the state bond commission, so nothing. And then line 96, record management system. We are actually collecting the monies for District 6 and District 7, and they're going to report on us. So 25,000 of that $44,000 number is going to be offset by receipts from District 6 and 7 because we're handling the process for them. The $8,000 is really the cost of the old systems. The new systems are running about $14,000, but everybody's moving to the new system, and it's pretty much parish wide. So don't let that number be alarming because we will amend the receipts on page 1 to reflect those collections from District 6 and 7 once they're collected.
We will be adding, as we discussed, a line item to show it coming back in.
Correct. So you're going to have it in and out, but again, you've paid $44,000. I didn't want that to be something that was an alarmist when 25,000, that number is going to be offset.
Yeah.
So again, you're at 22.82 or 23% of the year. I think that's easily explained with some of these highlights that we talked about against your budget. So I would say you're in good financial standing as you are through February with everything that was discussed. So if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to discuss them. But if not, I would say the district is running in good shape.
Good to hear.
And then the next page is just simply your total balances, total checking savings of $3,151,600.
Okay.
And please note that you collect about 90% of your funds in the first quarter that you have to live off of for the rest of the year. And that's just the way that ad valorem falls. So that would conclude my report. Unless there are any questions.
Well, also, let's go ahead and address that. There's something new in the package, the last page. And
Looks like this. So if you flip over to this page, and this is brand new because we learned something that was brand new.
Okay.
You want me to explain that?
well, we'll just kind of lead into it, if you don't mind, Mark. So folks, you can think back, and you probably don't remember, but earlier, in historically, we really didn't have a feel for how much money was owed us. Our accounting wasn't, with our ambulance, it wasn't as stellar as it should be. And so what we've been working is being able to get to a point to where we have a feel for how much money is owed us and how much money we think we may be getting in. And just by knowing that, it gives us the ability, one, to track it. We can start thinking about, we think we've got $75,000 coming. But it also, lets us start planning on things. So if we feel like we've got some revenue that we pretty solidly can depend upon, it gives us the ability to start thinking about what can we spend and what we can, or what can we invest or what we cannot. And this is, it's not the best tool, but it is the beginning. And so Mark, I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it from that, just to explain how the tool works.
And I'll tell you, this is the best tool the district has had in the 20-year history of the ambulance.
Ever.
Let me start with a simple explanation directly with me. In December of 23, I replaced my left knee. My total bill, doctor, hospital, anesthesiologist was about 40 grand. We used Blue Cross Blue Shield. The contractual write down or write off that bill reduced it to 15,000. So 15,000 was the real bill after a $40,000, bill that by legal federal requirements they have to write down. So when you look at Medicare, Medicaid, even if you bill for $2,000, they may write $1,500 off because of contractual obligations. So you're never going to collect $2,000. My doctor was never going to get $40,000 for my knee replacement. He was going to get 15. And now that 13 may have been paid by Blue Cross, and the other 2 was paid by me through co-pays, co-insurance, stuff like that. So when you look at this current number, the $53,000, working with Cronus, before we made an adjustment, that number was actually about 127,000. But we know now that roughly $72,000 had to be contractually written off because of the contract with Medicare, Medicaid, and third-party providers like a Blue Cross or Humana. So you were never going to collect 127,000, and by default, 127 was really never debt owed to the district. To put it into contract, you remember last year we wrote off about $4 million, what we thought was bad debt from Insight. Insight has now told us that 70% of that should have been contractually written off as never collectible.
Right.
So really, it was a $1 million exposure, not a $4 million exposure. So this is the first month that we got the reports from Cronus, and we had a great call with him on Monday, I think it was.
Yeah, last week.
To figure out this contractual write-down, which is, again, mandated by federal law. So in this aging, this 1 through 30 through greater than 90 days has not been written down because we didn't know that until this call that we had.
Okay.
So out of this $200,000, realistically, only about 25% will truly be collectible money back to the district, in addition to what we've already collected, which this month was over $60,000 from Cronus, about $67,000. So when Danny wanted to manage this on behalf of the board, we're never going to have a $4 million monopoly money number again because of the contractual write-downs and things of that nature. The other thing is we're still collecting money from services that may have been rendered in 24 because of the process of going through the billing, or if someone has set up a payment plan with Cronus and they're going to pay $100 a month on a $1,200 bill, they won't finish that debt until after that $1,200 is paid off in a year. So I believe we are at the best spot possible to start understanding what real money is to the district and what we have to contractually write off that should never be recognized as debt because it never was debt.
Well, and I'll add to it that this is going to be better over time.
Yeah, this is the only month that was adjusted because we just knew.
So it's based off of historical data. So the more historical data that our CPA gets, the better he can refine these numbers.
So let me ask you this question. So basically this is an estimate, correct?
On the averages that we're getting from Cronus.
So what is like the time lag between the actual billing and when we actually have everything
Finished.
finished?
It could be years.
Oh,
Yes,
It's gonna be a
you got to slow down.
constant.
Well, put it this way, if you have somebody that has, that only can pay $25 a month, and their copay and their co-insurance on a major claim is $10,000.
Mhm.
And we engaged Cronus to be our debt collector to infinity.
Right.
So to comply with legislative officer requirements. So if they say all you can do is 25 a month, and it's a 25,000 or $10,000 bill, you can see how many months it is to get it collected. So a lot of your Medicare, Medicaid is pretty fast. Your private pay, like the Blue Cross and
Reasonable.
it is reasonable, but it all depends. But then everybody has a copay out of pocket and a co-insurance, especially when you go in the hospital. That really is on the financial solvency of that individual to satisfy that obligation. So it would nothing be but a wag if I gave you a hard number, because it never will be a hard
It
number.
never will be. Okay.
Now, I would say this, we probably have a reasonable number within 6 months. And the stragglers would probably be in that 5% range.
Kind of what I was asking. It's gonna be like about a real 6 month lag before we'll have a really good idea of.
That's what they're telling us.
Okay.
Look, but given where we were,
Oh, we're not.
Whole lot.
we had no clue.
Right.
And
And quite frankly, Insight has not been as informational to the department as Cronus has been. And to the point where we learned on this call that, there's some almost mandated requirements for somebody who dies while they have an active claim if they're Medicare, Medicaid.
we will be talking about that a little bit later.
So to the board's insight, we are actually learning more about ambulance so that we can be very, be able to discuss this at better detail than we ever had with any member of the public.
And it's important to the public to know because there's value, right? So we're not just forgetting the money that we have to give away contractually because there's a value, So when the community, they got this ambulance, we need to be able to show the community what that worth is. So yes, we might be bringing in a certain amount of revenue, but it was this much of a value to the community to have that ambulance here.
And this is just one part of the value of the ambulance. Don't forget that, Katie wasn't going to stage here. It was going to take 30 minutes to get here for anybody that had. So in addition to the service that you're delivering, which is primary, basically with the benefit of Cronus and teaching us how to do the job better. And Teresa files claims every day. So she's doing a wonderful job of putting that into play. But you're seeing almost double the revenue collection as you did under Insight.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more during the meeting about that as well, just to show show the trend of that money.
So this report will get tighter and tighter as we go deeper in the year.
Good.
And that would conclude the treasury.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept? We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second to accept. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report? You're not. None from the audience? You're not gonna give me thumbs up again, Keith? All right, so we got a motion, we got a second, we know more discussion, so let's vote to accept it. All in favor? Any opposed? I hear none, so the treasurer's report's been accepted. Chief report.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Call volume, February, we had, we had 139 calls in February. Year to date, we're at 340, at lunchtime, 346. I think we added 2 more calls since then. As far as EMS response, we had 1 day in February 26th, we had only 1 med unit. That was due to maintenance issues with the generator. So just 1 day without both med units operational. PIL, we're currently working on our PIL rating. We have the packet. We have that table in the ACDC office that is covered in all kind of PIL stuff. So we're certainly working on that. They did give us an extension, a 30-day extension to get some stuff mocked up and turned into them. So we will have that first due. We talked about that reporting system that we're that we're working on. We're working on onboarding, and it seems like every day we're doing some kind of Zoom meeting with them to learn each module. As far as that, it has several modules from maintenance to scheduling to EMS and fire reports. So as far as onboarding, it's slow and steady with the PIL stuff going on in the background as well. So we'll get that kind of going. We did get the emergency responder part of that module functioning. That's where we get our pages through an app. So that is 100% functional for our guys. And that enabled us to drop down some of the services that we got from Streetwise previously. So we're doing limited stuff from Streetwise as far as the video boards at our station. But other than that, everything else, as far as emergency paging, is coming through First Due. That is everything I have. Mark's going to touch on some of the stuff as far as training. We have some guys who got some certs, and we have some classes going on and coming up that Mark's.
Yeah, it's up to date too.
We did have a training meeting today. I didn't know if that was on your agenda. So each month, the parish-wide, all their training divisions come together. They brainstorm. They talk about things that are coming up. They go through a list of courses and classes that are available. You can see we have some posted on our board over there. It's just a time for us to network with each department, their training divisions. And we did invite members from the State Fire Marshal's office, their training division as well. So they came and talked a lot. He spent a lot of time talking about some different courses, some changes, some updates that they had to offer. So it's very beneficial, and we were happy to host them, and we look forward to doing that again in the future. So they kind of rotate different districts and host. So we'll plan on doing that, again in the future, but we do attend those every month. And then Mark, like I say, he's going to update some training stuff for us.
So, over the last month, we participated at the Chattahoochee Mardi Gras event and our annual parade for Mardi Gras. We had the antique truck and Sector 31 participate in it. We're still coordinating with the schools, with the troopers participating with the fire drills. The three rookies that we have in rookie score now, we got the latest update today. They're all passing the test. They were good. So they shouldn't be a problem. Over the last couple of weeks, we had two people go to a fatal fire investigation class, and we sent 5 people to officer warning. All 5 passed, got the certificate. Next week, we had one person going to the fire investigator third class in Baton Rouge. And next week, me and Assistant Chief Gilliard are going to test our Officer 4 certification. Yeah, that's about all I have for this month's update.
How about the training so we can start that fire the bureau?
Yeah, I did reach out to Chief Marquette at District 1. We have to do some ride-alongs with their Fire Prevention Bureau, those of us who have Investigator 1 and 2.
So that's it. You have to have investigator 1 and 2.
Inspector.
I'm sorry, Inspector 1.
Inspector
You
1.
don't have to have 2. Two's, some people do already have 2, but Inspector 1's minimum. Those who have that will do ride time with District 1, learn the ins and outs and everything that they do as far as their inspections. Once we have that signed off, we can send that information to the Fire Marshal's office, and I believe at that point they should allow us to formally have our own bureau.
And I know I asked you this before, Michael, and I know you told me, but when do you think that we will start doing the bureau work?
So I hope that's going to kind of coincide with the First Due, because there is a separate module for inspections. And so I think we need to get that on board first. So I would probably, we're in March, let's aim for June. I think it should be fair.
All right, cool.
And the board will be required to adopt NFPA 1 and 101 as guidelines.
We've already done
That's
that.
right, we did that last year.
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
we've got it cleared through the parish council. It was 2 months ago, January. January, so we got it. It's all.
We're good then.
We're on the launch pad. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, so I'd like to have that module in place, obviously, and then kind of go into that with the new software. So
It was announced at the town hall that you guys were going to be doing that, and people were mumbling about, but it's good. It's a good idea. So,
Every intention on doing that's good. It's a public outreach
yeah.
and being able to work with some of these business owners. So it's all in the name of positive public relations.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to go get the folk train also?
We're not going to get into that at this point. I think that would be a long ways. In fact, I don't think anybody in Slidell's formally post trained. I could be wrong, but I don't know that they have anybody who's formally post that does their investigations
So
or
that-
inspections. They do?
Yeah,
Okay.
they approved post certification, I think, over a year ago,
Okay.
and they've been working with the sheriff's office.
I know they do have SWAT medics that are post certified, but I didn't know about the fire prevention.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a ways off for us.
I'll be the first one.
You want to be the first.
Yeah, actually Slidell District One authorized them to carry and has purchased firearms for them, for those that are approach certified, and they limited to, I think, the fire chief, the chief of fire prevention, the assistant chief of fire prevention. I think it's very limited group who's able to do that.
It's not a liability involved.
We'll aim for that for June.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, Chief, you got anything else?
I am done, and I think Mark said he was done.
Yes, Teresa? Nope. Teresa ain't got anything to say. Thanks, guys. All right, so it brings us into the old business. First item on there, this goes back to last month. We had a resolution to approve the financial ladder strategy. And because she wasn't on the signature cards, I went ahead and executed the plan on it. And so this is what we ended up with. This is what we've got. So we opened 3 treasury bills, started on 2/14. One treasury bill was opened with $249,532.40. It matures on 4/8 with $251,000. That's going to give us a gain of about $1467.60. We opened up a second treasury bill with $249,730.23. It matures on 6/12 with $253,000 in gain. So that's going to give us $3269.77. And then finally, the third treasury we opened with $499,837.23. It's going to mature on 8/14 with $510,000 in it. So that's going to give us a gain of $10,162.77. So the total investment that we put in was $999,099.86 with a total gain of $14,900. And we may have some opportunity to do some more investment, but I know Chief's still going through doing some repairs on the trucks and things. So right now we're going to hold pat until we got a real good understanding of what we might have to work with. And so moving forward, when you get your signatures on it, you can make all those arrangements. All right. And the only other thing to add to it is that they are set up to roll over. If we don't need them, they're simply going to roll. Okay? Any questions on that? There is no action required in that. We're just giving you an update. Gotcha. Next up on the agenda is the nomination for Board of Commissioners, and just again bringing some folks up to speed. Back in February, I announced that Adam Jacks was going to be nominated to the Board of Commissioners at the Parish Council meeting in February. Joe told me that it just got jammed up and he just didn't make it on the agenda. They got a pretty early cutoff day. And if you miss the cutoff, they're pretty old. They hold to it. They don't like to take it. Matter of fact, we were going to try to work it and just bring it in off the floor, but there was no rush. So he's going to be on next month. So April, he will be nominated and then voted on. And then in April, he will get his paperwork. And then is, be on the board. Okay. Okay. Okay, and so that's kind of it. And Marty needs to sit up here with us. Of course, he can join the discussions, but he will not be able to vote until it's completed. And then, next on the agenda is the ambulance revenue in our technical support. So what I've got is our ambulance collection, and we had gotten this from, Coronas. Corona shared this data with us at our last meeting. And I thought it was real interesting to see how that whole process worked, how it affected our money. And I wanted the board to see the work that they did. You know, we did some things. The fire department, the admin staff did some things, and the guys working in the trucks did some things, right? They started doing things that, they went to some classes, and they report writing classes, and there was an effect to it. So if we look at the slide, this early piece up here, running from January into around June, that was straight insight billing. And this is when this thing was just arbitrarily being written off. There was some sort of unofficial policy that if a bill was sent 3 times and the guy lived in Lacombe, they didn't pursue it. So there was all kinds of little caveats to it. And so around June, we talked about it, we put a halt to it and kind of put that billing company on notice, and you're going to see the effect. So when we stopped just arbitrarily giving that away, we had a rapid increase into our revenue. And then right around this time is when we were really getting tired of the services we were getting from our previous billing company. And I think Ms. Teresa and I was really looking for somebody to pick it up. And we did. We found an organization, and the board voted them in. And this line right here, you can see, is when our current billing company, Coronas, kicked in. And so from October into December, we essentially had 2 companies pursuing bills for us. So Coronas was getting all the fresh stuff, and then Insight was still managing some of the stuff that they had in the rears. And then, first of the year, this is about when Coronas became our primary sole provider for billing. We get very little from Insight, I would imagine. Yeah, very little. So this right here is pure new billing company. And so what I'd like to point out is that you could look at the trend. So the work that everybody has done here collectively, right? The board, the admin, and the guys out in the field, what it's done is it's made our revenue steadily climb. So it's been good, right? If you look and compare this data, I know it's only 2 months, but this data to the data that's down here, we're up by about 75% increase in our revenue as opposed to the same time frame last year. So we're doing good, folks.
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, you'll permit me, we also learned at our call last week that hit in December 25 was due to holidays and things of that nature where they just didn't bill out because of year end.
Right.
So we'll see that bounce back up.
I hope that we should see a rather uptick for March.
Correct.
That's the hope. So, combined with the work that collectively everybody has done, and we've now got a tool that we could track it, we can now really have some good conversations about the value of that ambulance. And, people ask now, is the ambulance making money? We have an answer, and we could show it.
Yeah.
Historically, we gave a gut answer, and that's not really too good. So I just wanted to show that to everybody. And if anybody has any questions, Lauren? All right, thank you. All right, so that brings us into the new business. And first up, the new business is going to be resolution 2025-008, board resolution to approve financial services signature authority. And essentially, we voted Mr. Raymond in as the treasurer, and he has to have signature authority. So that's what this resolution is about.
And the bank requires you to do this.
Yes, that's, they had to have it by resolution. They're pretty tight on that stuff.
Which is good.
Yeah, it is. Miss, Wynn
Win Williams.
scared me. She said, so whatever she tells me to do, I do. All right, so that's what it amounts to. That's going to give him the ability to sign checks.
And it removes the signature authority from John Hutchinson.
Yes, it does. Now, Mr. Reese, this also gives him the ability to move, manage the investments. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure. I know we can sign checks
Okay, so,
for signatures.
let's, make sure we're gonna get this done. And if he has to have something else to do the investments, because if I recall right, it was two separate
Yeah.
signatures that we had to do. So if not, we can get that taken care of. So I'd like to have a motion to approve signature authority for Mr. Raymond Baptiste. And could I get a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion on this? No discussion. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries. All right. Next resolution. I guess let me start off. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that would be after you ask for any objections.
Yeah, I guess.
After you have a motion in the section.
All right. So the next up is, back when Chief Seacard retired, we had to go through this process to give some appointing authority to the chief and to the assistant chief, and it's only good for a period of time.
Right, so this is really record keep or housekeeping
Right.
measures because of the state examiner's
All
requirement.
right, so we're really refreshing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and really the resolution is to reappoint the chief and the assistant chief. And if I recall correctly, when we did it, the original time, it was two separate resolutions. We did one for the chief and then we followed it up with the assistant chief. So if it's okay with everyone, I want to do them separately. All right, so,
Well, actually, this is because it's more of a record keeping nature.
it is, but bear with me.
Okay.
On this. So what I'd like to do is have a motion to reapprove Michael Geisler as provisional chief of SDL. So we have a motion for it. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Do we have any discussion on it? So,
Speak now for the whole.
yeah, run to the door, Michael. All right, we got a motion, we got a second, no discussion on it. All in favor of Michael coming back in as provisional? Say aye. Any opposed? I hear none, so Michael, you've been anointed again. And then the next up is for the assistant chief, Gil Yacht. He's not here. Michael, we have anything you want to add to it or? For Gil Yacht? Okay. All right, so I need to get a motion for assistant chief Michael Gilliott.
I'll make the motion.
And we have a second?
I'll second that.
And do we have any discussion? No? So all in favor of reappointing Assistant Chief Mike Gilliott, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so he has been reappointed. All right. Billing practices. And there is, Michael, does everybody get, Mr. Reese, did everybody get a copy of the Medicare beneficiary death billing policy?
Yes.
So everybody has a copy of it. So when we were meeting with
Not yet.
Wellness. No, yes.
Yeah.
Apparently we do.
Yeah, because I did it.
Oh, okay. Well, let's not be throwing anybody under the bus now.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, so when we had that meeting with Coronas and we were talking about, uncollectible debt, I can only speak for myself. I was quite surprised that Coronas executed what they believe their authority to forgive debt. After we went through all of that, earlier, I was quite surprised that they was $1,500. If I
Yes.
remember right,
$1,500.
$1,500, and also I think that was one of four. There were multiples.
I thought it was just
I
one
think
for
it's
you.
just one.
One.
It was just one.
Yes, sir.
All right, because I understood it to say there was a few.
I'll receive it.
Okay. So what we asked them to do was give us their policy, and it's listed as a Medicare beneficiary death billing policy. Even though it talks about the Medicare beneficiary, but it also gets into some claim submissions, so it kind of reads as if the person's got insurance. So I guess what we have, and this is just my thoughts, is that I don't have a problem forgiving debts or money owed by a deceased. I don't. I mean, that's not, to me, I want to be chasing blood money, right? I don't want to. But what I've got a concern of is I don't want us to regress back into practices that we were experiencing the first part of the year. Oh, we had guidance from the legislative auditor that their legal department, that all debts are owed to the state or subdivisions of the state. We must make reasonable efforts to collect that money. You know, and I'm sure what they're doing is making reasonable effort, right? I'm sure they are. And so, it's really, we need to hear from the board. What is our pleasure? Do we want to allow Coronas to forgive the debt for the deceased? If they do, they must be clear evidence that all reasonable efforts have been made to collect that debt. And how do we want it to happen? Do we want Coronas to do it? Or do we want Coronas to give us the information and we do it? So that's where I am with it. So, open for discussion.
I think, we're paying Coronas, let's have them do it.
Yeah.
But, I would say the only exception to where we give is maybe if they do not have any insurance at all. I mean, then it's gonna fall upon the descendants, So, but if they have Medicare, Medicare will pay a portion. We bill that whatever we get from any private insurance or Medicare, that's what we accept. They have no insurance, then we really don't have nothing.
So the question would be, who forgives it? Does Coronas forgive it and tell us that they forgave it? Or do they tell us it needs to be forgiven and we forgive it?
I think maybe a notification ought to be given to us before anything. Just to make sure that all of the process has been followed.
They would know the best.
Yeah.
Whether the process, they would know, they would far beyond anything I think we could figure out, right?
Yeah.
Judging by what you just mentioned, we don't want to fall back into that because we don't want to be surprised one day and say, oh yeah, we had to forgive, 15 of these during the course of the year. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
We'll be back where we was.
Maybe we ought to have a little notification process
Yeah.
that either 5 feet be noticed,
Yeah.
be notified, or
Mhm.
chairman of the board be notified, somebody be notified.
It's a good time frame, I think. Whereas, if you're trying to collect the debt, how long will you go after the debt?
This is, I think, 60 days.
60 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it stipulates in there.
And
And one of the, I think, recommendations that will be presented to the board is there's 3 levels of collections. You've got the death claim, which they have a policy. So what I'd like to do is present a resolution which would satisfy the LLO requirements for collecting debt to infinity, that the board has reviewed and accepted this policy for debt. There's a hardship policy for someone who's in a hardship condition. District 4 only does that if the provider forgives the debt. So, St. Tammany Parish Hospital forgives the debt, then they forgive it. But if St. Tammany Parish Hospital doesn't, they say, no, it's not a hardship, then they need to collect it to infinity. And the third would be traditional medical billings where they collect to infinity regardless. We've asked for their 3 sets of practices that they use. We've only got the death policy. But once we get all 3, I would recommend the board review them. We approve them by resolution with modification that the board deems appropriate. And that way, when the legislative order comes in and says, are you pursuing real efforts to collect this debt? We can point to those 3 resolutions and say yes.
That's fine. I'm sure they're doing everything. But I wanted to hear from the board, what do we want to do? Do we want
Be notified in advance or
or do we going to do? And from what I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, is that I've heard we want to do it. We want to forgive the debt. Am I wrong?
I don't know. Well, who would be?
What is the criteria? I mean,
60 days.
60 days. They're going to go through the process, right? And they're going to make the determination that they've got everything that they're capable of getting.
Okay.
And then there's a question of who forgives it. Are we going to tell Coronas through resolution, forgive those debts on our behalf? Or do we want Coronas to tell us that there are debt that's owed, they can't collect it, and we forgive it? I know it's kind of like,
It's a little confusing, but
Well, who's going to pursue the debt if we choose to do it?
Coronas will do the whole job, everything. Coronas will do one of 2 things. They'll either come to us and say, we forgave this debt. And we'll say, oh, okay. Or they'll say, this debt needs to be forgiven. And then we, as the commissioners, say, they've done their due diligence, they've given everything, and as the board of commissioners, we forgive that debt.
Okay.
let me ask this question: just how frequent does this occur? What's the frequency of this occurrence? When a patient dies, and
I don't think we actually got reports from Insight on that, did we?
Not from Insight, and that one report we got.
is it
from-
1 or 2 a year? I mean,
This is the first one since basically September of last year with Coronas.
That I know of.
Right.
I was quite surprised to find this
So I think
one.
this is the first one they've given you notification of.
Okay.
so we're looking at a handful during the course of a year.
Correct.
So I initially I'm thinking this is going to be a big occurrence, but it's maybe not. But and then the recourse for us, is going to require some work.
Yeah.
But
So on our part,
yeah,
the only work we gotta do is get this paper and say, we forgive this debt. We don't have to do anything.
okay. Well, I think for the infrequency, maybe it should come to us and just after 60 days, it's going to come to us.
I think they're going to pursue efforts for 60 days. So probably within 30 days after that period expires, you'll get notification.
Okay. And then it'll bring brought before us, and we'll say, we'll have to forgive.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I guess the buck's got to fall somewhere.
The only, and here's why I'm being such a stickler on it, is that in Louisiana revised statutes, it says that it's the responsibility of the board to enter into debts or forgive debt. We are the responsible party.
We're the authority.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And if I believe that we own that.
Okay.
And I believe that it should be our responsibility. I'm not trying to make anybody's decision. But if that's what we're responsible to do, then I think we need to do that.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
That's Dan's opinion now.
And me, not being familiar with the state law,
I think that we dealing with people in our community
Well,
and we should handle, you know,
Yes.
The only thing I would say is you probably don't want to list the names in a public meeting
no,
because they'll have extended family most
Yeah.
likely.
So what was the debt we forgave? The loan?
how much? 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I think it was Medicare.
I don't know.
That wasn't too much.
Medicare.
Okay.
All right, so any
make-
thoughts? You're welcome to speak. Can't vote.
Well, no, my question would have been to satisfy the state's mandate. You've addressed that. So I can't imagine why you would choose anything else other than handle it here. Yeah.
All right, so what I'm hearing then is that we would do a resolution.
I'd like to do all three once we get the other stuff.
Okay.
But the resolution would be is we would modify Cronus's policy to notify you in advance before the debt is formally forgiven. Yeah, so the board can make a decision.
Correct.
Okay. So that would be basically the only modification to that policy
Right.
you have.
And so we don't need to vote on it or anything.
No, sir.
We're gonna go ahead and draft the resolution and
Well,
then
what I'll-
we'll vote on it at
My
that.
hope would be is we would have the other policies prior to the April meeting that you would be receiving in advance
Right.
to review it.
Okay.
And then I would like to resolve all three different silos by three separate resolutions. So if someone says it's hardship, here's a resolution for that. If
Yeah.
death, here's a resolution for traditional collections.
Very good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. Philip.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we've got resolution 2025-10, approve the amend 2024 operating budget. And again, the resolution is to meet the requirement of Louisiana legislative auditor that when our budget is out by 5% over or under, that we must amend the budget by law. And I'm going to turn that discussion over to Mark, I think.
So you'll pull out your Excel spreadsheet. And let me start with the operational side. If you'll turn to page 2 or 3, please.
Just take this. No, I've already seen it.
The only thing we've amended is you'll see the columns were amended in the variance. We just agreed to amend major line items because you were in excess of the 105% on the operational side. So we had to bring it down below 105. The board approved in June of last year the increase in manpower plus the increase in pay, which affected the retirement system, which affected workers' comp, affected taxes. So I have shown basically in those categories what was amended due to that board resolution for that on page 2. And you can see the total on that for the revisions was $572,555. I am not a fan of amending to the penny. And I'm a fan of amending only those large ticket items, not every single item, because in the LOA requirements, it's total receipts and total operations. It's not line item receipts and line item operations. So my goal was to get you back in budget. So this can be tied very quickly to the actions that the board approved in June of 24. So if somebody says, why did you so over budget? Well, it was planned. And that was and the benefit of your recruitment, your retention has been outstanding since the board took this action. So this needs to be a compliment to the board more than anything else. The last one is if you'll turn to page 3, line item 114. You can see it was $15,000. It's over 1,300%. It was $200,000, and I footnoted this was headquarters stations 31 and 33 remodel repairs and maintenance. You're sitting in the room that qualified under the remodel repairs and maintenance. And again, if you remember the termite issue we had on the, I guess it's the east wall.
Yeah.
The
Related to the ceilings.
and the ceilings and everything else.
I think it went almost double.
So, and you had the electrical issue, I think, out at one of the stations that you had to deal with where it was grounding out and some other stuff. So this board has not done anything wrong. This is just a requirement by the legislative auditor. And the craziness of the law, they allow you to amend it after you complete your fiscal year. Prior to your audit being submitted to both the parish government and to the legislative auditor. So if you'll look at the last column under 119, you can see with those revisions to operating, we're now at 100.35% in operations versus before we were at about 122% over budget.
So we're back in.
So we're back within the 5% window. If you go to page 1, please, if you look at the blank spot after page 20 or number 20, where it says transfer from restricted funds of 445,000. So even though it was over 700,000 in expenditures, because we collected more money than we expected, the net from the both the ins and outs was 445,000 from restricted funds. We had estimated about $500,000 in cost for those changes, so we came under that. I put it as a January through December 24 expense because we never budgeted back when this 24 budget was approved in December of 23. That the board would take these actions for retention, recruiting, and things of that nature. So that was the best place to put it. So you can see now that we're at 120, almost 123%, which the receipt side is if you're 95 or below. The expenditure side is if you're 105 or greater. So we solved all the requirements of the legislative auditor process by doing this. My recommendation would be is approve the resolution to amend it. We will get this to Tim Karbowski, the CPA, with PMI that does your financial reports. He will formally amend this budget, and then we will attach it as an exhibit to the resolution.
And it meets the time requirements
Correct.
that, is this month? End of the month?
No, actually, we have your audit is not formally submitted until May 31st, I think it is, or May 1st.
All right, long way ahead of the.
So we're ahead of the curve.
Okay.
So, and we knew 24 was going to be off just because of the changes that were approved that were not even planned in the 23 budget. So as you remember, we have to approve the 26 budget no later than December 16th this year, 15 days before the calendar year ends. So that is my recommendation for the amended budget for 24.
Okay, so before we can get off into much more, we need a motion to adopt the 2024 operation budget.
I'll make that motion.
We'll need a second. So do we have any further discussion on this? No? Okay. So no discussion. So let's vote. All in favor of approving the resolution 2025-10 for the amendments as outlined by PMI, Mr. Wininski, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And then we'll do the housekeeping on it. No, we don't need to do
No, you already approved it.
We don't.
So with the approval, we will amend it and then we'll attach the amended budget
Okay,
as the
so
final.
We're done. We're done. Okay. Good. Thank you.
I will cover that when we do the last.
All right. Then we've got resolution 2025-11. And it's a resolution to approve the establishment of the Fire District Auxiliary Support Organization. And so I'll introduce this by saying that this department has a very deep history of volunteerism. The department was established in 1956 as a volunteer organization. It's correct, right? 56? Pretty sure that's correct. So it was established in 1956. In somewhere in around the late 70s, it became the medical responders. I think we started with a old hearse is what we originally had. And I remember in the 80s, it's an ambulance that we kept together with duct tape. Literally, there was pieces of duct tape holding things up in the engine. Quite interesting little operation. And so it was an organization that actually did all the emergency response up until around the year 2000. So that gave them 44 years of history as a provider to this community, straight volunteers. When SDFD3 became the appointed authority for fire and medical, not long after that, the volunteers soon dissolved. There was a transition period in there that we actually had two organizations. We had SDFD3 that would respond, and we had the LVFD, Volunteer Fire Department, where they responded together, but it was quite strange because they had on two different T-shirts. It was like, didn't make like brain sense to me. But then soon after that, SDFD3 started the reserve program. And so those volunteers then shifted over into that reserve. And so those that have been here for a while, Mr. Ray and Mr. Leo, they could think back what this fire department was to this community. This was really a social place.
Yeah.
Friday nights, this was the place to be in Macomb.
Oh, yes.
I was 400 or 500 people
Right.
easily in that station. We had sandwiches, we sold, they even sold beer.
Right.
Fried chicken, some of the best fried chicken, and fish that you could get because I cooked it. But it was just the place, right?
Right.
It was the heart of the community.
Right.
And we lost that. Not to take anything away from STFD3 today, but we don't have that social connection with this community anymore. And so I'd like to have the opportunity to bring that back. And this vision of this organization could do quite a few things for us. Fundraising, as an example.
Bingo.
I don't know about bingo. I don't know about bingo, but they can do grant writing.
Yeah.
They can do social participation with the community. I mean, I don't know what that might be, and I don't want to try to define it. I think that the people that may want to run that organization, let them put the meat on the bones about what those things could be.
Yeah, exactly.
They can do things like regulation, legislation, and advocacy. Some of the things that we can't do as a fire department, STFD3, we can't campaign for a thing, right? We can't.
That's right.
We got to be very careful. Even like we may not necessarily like some of the tax assessing that was done, but you got to be very careful. Where an organization like that can be more vocal, we do more things with it. So I'm bringing it to the board to see what the thoughts might be.
Okay.
Let the fellas in. I've been here long enough to remember and be part of all of that. Let you
Well,
guys
I would say there's a decrease in volunteers and then same thing over here. But I know that during the 70s and 80s and stuff, people volunteered. I don't think people volunteer as much, but if we give them put some meat on the bone, maybe we'll get more people to volunteer to be part of the auxiliary and stuff. I think we ought to put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah. Mr. Lee, that sounds pretty good. Of course, it's good during those times, and I think so. We put it out there. We'll get some volunteers. What's that?
Yeah.
Mr. Rick?
Okay. I got a lot to say about this. Danny and I have had a few discussions about this, and just coming from where the department I came from, they organized the foundation. I said what we have to do. We have to we have to put aside the old concept. We got to bring it into modern, into a modern view of it, because, you know, the volunteer, we don't have volunteers. So, we have to rename it, come up with, you know, Lacombe Fire Department, Lacombe Firefighters Foundation. You know, it's going to be a nonprofit organization, unaffiliated with the department. It has no connections,
Okay.
you know, but at the same time, it's going to reflect on this department.
Right.
So the integrity of it has to be watertight. You know, we have to have a certain amount of control over it, but the benefits of it are vast. There could be scholarships, endowments for the firefighters at Lacombe Fire Department. It's a tool to bring the community together, to assist the department, the fire chief, with his public relations. It gets votes. The more these guys are out in the community, the more that the community sees them and with the good that they're doing with, man, you know, that's a step in the right direction to getting more millage in a future election. You know, we could set up endowments for the recreation to connect with the recreation department. You know, we can search for members of the board of this nonprofit from other sections of the community. You know, we could. It's a way of getting donations from private, and Danny looked into it from private industry. Like say, you know, an oil refinery wants to donate some hazardous materials equipment to the department. They can't just come give it to the department, but they can give it to the NPO, and they can donate it to the department.
Yeah.
You know, this is a great tool that can be created to assist these guys in a way that never before was able to happen. You know, fundraising we could do fundraisers, and we could get kids involved. We could even get, you know, we talked about a program of getting, you know, high school kids involved in the department, starting a school program, like a cadet program. It could all be meshed together. You know, it's just endless opportunities. I think I'm a little bit excited about it. You know?
So my thoughts on it is that I came from that volunteer organization. I remember when this was the seat of activity, right? If they had a question on anything, they came to the fire department. I mean, they knocked on Joe Allen's door. They you know, it was the place. And Michael and the new folks here have done a lot to get back to that community-based fire department. He's done a tremendous job at it. But he needs some help. And there's just certain things that he can't do. He's not allowed to do. And an organization like this would be. You know, I would be more in favor of, you know, we adopt this. We've already got some people interested of getting it set up. Give them the opportunity to put some structure to it and come back to the board and tell us. But before they can do that, they have to be endorsed. We have to, you know, they have to be underneath our auspice.
Yes.
If not, then we shouldn't even be having this discussion. Right?
And the resolution reads that they would report to the board at the public meetings what their activities and actions are.
That's correct.
Yeah, that would be one thing that we're going to have to get, you know, the legalities with these NPOs. I'm not so certain that any of us board members can be a member.
You can't be.
Yeah, so some sort of way we got to figure out the legalities of it.
Well, the
Keep
way
it
that
separate, but
we structured the resolution that they would fall under the approval of their actions and activities by the fire board when they report to you.
okay.
So so they would basically, the benefits of this organization far outweigh any negatives. But the board would have enough oversight so they don't go rogue.
Yeah. So essentially, they would have a seat available to them.
That would actually be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, Danny had already looked up, we have, a Lacombe Volunteer Firemen's Association already registered with the state.
I don't think we even need to get into what we name it tonight.
No, not that, but we already have an organization registered with the state. It's just inactive.
Correct.
So it'd
It's
be a matter of-
it's LVFD,
yeah,
Lacombe Volunteer Fire Department Corporation.
okay,
This would not be technically a volunteer fire department. It would be an auxiliary.
yeah. So, it would be a matter of contacting some of these board members.
It's already been done, but we don't need to really get into that because whoever gets in there, if we don't go after the name LVFD, it's not a discussion. We don't have to talk to anybody.
Okay.
I don't know.
Create a new one.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
brand new. I would advise whoever it is to try to keep that LVFD name somehow, because it brings us back to an organization that's been around since 1956. And if they do get into grant writing, that carries a lot of weight. That carries an organization that's writing the grant that's been in existence since 1956, as opposed to an organization that was started in 2025. If they were put on the table, both written equally, 1956 is given.
I think you could do something simple as put auxiliary as the last word in the title.
Yeah.
And you could claim the heritage.
I mean, we're doing it now.
Right.
We claim the volunteer fire department heritage. I mean, I see the pictures up there.
Okay. I mean, my vision was totally they're getting the volunteer out of it because we're no longer volunteer. I think it's a concept that could confuse people.
Well, there are ways to do it. I mean, you could do LVFD fire department, or the auxiliary LVFD doing business as
To me,
the auxiliary.
the semantics of the name are immaterial. Is
Yeah,
the board's approval to say, let's reestablish it,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then work the kinks out after we.
Let the ones who were jumping on that grenade,
Okay.
let them come up with and advise us. I mean, let them build it. If we build it,
Yeah.
it's kind of like force feed them.
Gotcha. Is that originally or currently registered as a nonprofit?
It is not. It is, well, I'd have to go back and check on the last one. It was originally filed as a corporation. Now, they may have changed it over time, but I don't think it was. I don't remember. I sent it to you.
No, and I don't know if it was officially recognized as a political subdivision under the parish government.
It was not.
It was not, okay.
It was not.
But again, I think you could have a brand new entity that claims the heritage of what was established back in 1956.
Okay.
And we could lean on Chad if we need to.
Correct.
Walk through that.
This is just the board
Chad's
saying,
our lawyer.
yeah, this is just the board saying, we want to pursue the, this reestablishment of auxiliary.
No, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we talked a lot about it. We've got some opinions. So let's go ahead. Do we have a motion to establish a fire district auxiliary support organization? Motion.
I make a motion to staff.
Do we have a second on it? Any further discussion on it? I hear none, so let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of adopting 2025-11, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries. Bingo.
And-
Go get your stuff.
So one other item under new business, usually I have general comments and that's not on here and it may be, I just failed to put it on the agenda.
No, you did, but we never, it's kind of dropped them. So I tell you what, would we like to add something to it?
Yes, sir. I'd
All
like,
right, so I'd like to get a motion to go ahead and add to the agenda general comment
general comments.
from BMI. So could we have a motion?
Yeah.
And we have a second, all in favor?
All right.
Aye, no opposed, so
Okay. We're in the process of doing the renewal questionnaire, for your VFIS renewal. That is the only carrier that will write fire districts and fire departments within that 90-mile coastal zone that we talked about. Obviously, you got Lake Pontchartrain right here. You're within the 90-mile crow fly for that. However, in reviewing this, we have looked at it, and you're at not a guaranteed replacement cost. You're just at a replacement cost because you're in that 90-mile window. The value of new construction today at a minimum is 200 square foot. District 4 in Mandeville just completed 2 stations. District 2 in Madisonville is completing the station. District 13 just got a bid approved to build the 4th station on that 200 square foot range.
Mhm.
Your building's valued, even though they're at a condition that they're currently in. If you lost them in an act of nature, you can't build back to the condition they're in. You got to build a new construction. So we have some valuations in our renewal questionnaire that are low, except for the training structure that's out at, which is basically a shell building right now. My recommendation is that we move the valuation of your buildings, your stations, and the headquarters to a 200 square foot replacement versus the current value. And the most expensive one is Station 33. It's roughly valued at $1 million, roughly 100,000. If you took it to 1.5 million, which is the 200 square average, that $400,000 increase may be $5,000 to $7,000 of insurance premium, but then you're not picking up $400,000 of construction costs because it's not guaranteed replacement, it's replacement. The other thing is you would have a 5% name storm deductible. So out of that 1.1 million, you would lose basically $55,000. So you're not going to get to 1.1 no matter what. So to me, it's a debate of if it costs me $5,000 to grab $400,000 of insurance, if I lose that station, I've got 200 years of some exposure before I eat up my $400,000 in that standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think we wanted the board to have at least a conversation about we can stay undervalued if we have an act of nature. Don't forget, we just had a tornado in Slidell several months ago. Luckily, there was some damage to a station, but not a total loss.
Yes.
But you're in that 90-mile coastal exposure as the crow flies. So my recommendation to the board, although it is increasing your cost, I believe it to be a wise increase to get you to a reasonable replacement cost versus you losing a structure and then the board now saddled with another $300,000 or $400,000 debt to build it back to current standards or build it substandard in a smaller station because that's all the money you got.
And that you're saying the 200 square foot will be everything except for the training building, or you would include the training building at the 200?
No, I would accept the training building because it's,
Accept the training.
and we could revise the training building when we revise it.
Okay, so it would be everything with the exception of the training.
It would be some modest increase in some sheds. One is valued at $20,257. It would go to $21,000. One is valued at $31,220. It would go to $4,000. So those would not be, but those are just basically sheds as side structures to the stations. So give me an example. Michael, you help me with the building one is. So if you look at the South Mill Road station, that's valued at $298. It would go to $520. If you look at the Highway 190 station, that is currently $303. It would stay roughly at the $300,000. The next station is Station 3, which is 8th Street Station. That's at $555. It would go to $1.1 million. The 4 is Dick here at Main Street. It would go from $444 to $500. And then if you look at 434 station, it would go from 1 million, roughly 100,000 to 1.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we would have to do then is get a motion to move the insurance coverage to $200
To an approximate replacement value of 200
square foot with the exception of the training building.
Correct. In those sheds.
Okay.
Any estimate on the additional cost?
I don't have it now, but you're looking at, 200,000, about 600. So you're looking at about, a $1.3 million increase in values.
Mhm.
So high low, probably 8,000 to 12,000 a year in insurance premium as a rough estimate. Now, obviously that'll come into, but as you can see, when we did the repairs on this building, it was about double what we expected. And you can't rebuild this building for the current insured value.
Right. Okay.
But again, you can stay where you are. I just want, if you stay where you are, the board at least has an explanation of, wait a minute, I didn't get enough money to rebuild. Well, that was a decision by the board. Or we could go to 200 to square with the current new construction cost of station. And look, that's not granite countertops and gold plated toilets. That's just
Functional.
functional replacement cost.
Okay. So we need to get a motion to move our insurance coverage to 200 square foot building, estimated 200 square foot building costs, with the exception of the training building.
Have a motion, I make a motion that we build the building.
Oh.
200,000 training costs with the exception of the training.
Okay, do we have a second on that? So we do have a second. Any further discussion on this?
And that for record keeping will be resolution 12.
Okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries.
And just please note, we get the chance to review these and adjust these every year.
Yeah.
So we can look at them on an annual basis, but I just, if it's a known value that I believe you're underinsured on, I believe it's my obligation to bring it to the board's attention.
Appreciate your insight, man.
Mhm. And that would include the PMI report.
Thank you. All right, so next on the
I need a
agenda.
motion to approve the PMI.
Okay.
We took action.
Okay. So done. All right, so next up on the agenda is the executive session. So, Michael, who on your staff needs to be here for you to have this discussion?
Mark can stay. I don't necessarily think Teresa has to be part of the conversation. She would love to go home to her little puppy. So I think it's just Mark and I, and then the board, PMI.
Correct.
Okay, so going into it, we need to get a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing employee matters.
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second? And all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Just make note that people need to know that we will not make or cannot make any decisions while in executive session. All decisions must be done after we come out of session. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? We got to wait to get us off the air and clear the building.